Investor. This is my podcast. I'm your host, Will Carey. I appreciate you being here. We actually have a really good show today. I recently sat down with a comedian and general all-around beacon of light and positivity, Maribeth Mooney. And we had probably one of the longer conversations that I've had on this show, and I'm really excited to bring it to you. I learned a lot about her and her life, and it was really, really nice to sit down and talk with her. So we'll get to that shortly, but before I do, I'm recording this Monday, November 14th, so it's been almost a week since the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and in that week, it still feels really surreal and a little disheartening, at least from my perspective, that Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. I will, if I can be honest, I was not as confident going into election night last week as I think maybe the national polls showed, or maybe that a lot of my friends thought, because there was a lot of talk that Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide. And I certainly wanted that because, in my opinion, Donald Trump is not the person who's going to be a successful U.S. president. I did not vote for him. I voted for Clinton. And it was kind of a surreal night. And I'll tell you the story of, on election night. On election night, I was doing lights and sound for a sketch show at the People's Improv Theater. One of my jobs, including this and stand up and basically anything else, is I do lights and sound at the People's Improv Theater. And if you're doing sketch, I can help you. If you're doing a show there and you need a tech, I can be that guy for you. So I was doing the show, and I had the lights and sound and cues up on one window, and I was following the results on the other. And by the time I was watching the results come in, it was close. It was closer than it was the kind of close that I thought maybe it would be, but I was hoping maybe it wouldn't. And as states can continue to get checked off, and more states, crucial states, went for Donald Trump, I remember upstairs at the pit there was a big I'm with her election watch party, and every now and then you'd hear a big cheer of when Clinton won a particular state. But by the time the show was over, the show started at 11 and wrapped up around midnight. And by that point, it was quiet. It was the kind of quiet and sullen atmosphere that is I usually had only seen for like giant national tragedies. And to me and a lot of other people that I know, that's what this feels like. Because it feels like a rejection of, and this is something, and this is, I'm editorializing, and surely what I'm going through is not as bad as the fear that other people I'm friends with might be feeling. But in a way, I have, over the past few years, tried to, I'm always trying to be a better person, trying to learn, trying to open my mind, trying to be more of an inclusive person. Even if I feel like I know everything, I try to keep in mind that I don't, and there's always maybe something new I should wrap my mind around. And this was this feels like an invalidation by a large portion of the country, of people that are similar to me and trying to think like me. I'm not optimistic but I'd love to be proven wrong, as I'm sure many of us would be. But this is the first time in a long time that I feel like I've got to do more. And, and this is thematically, again, something that I go to a lot, is that, life is this push and pull between really great and really bad. And sometimes it takes the really bad to ignite you into being a more active participant in your country and in the culture at large. I'm going to try. And if you're feeling similar, I hope you do too. And I'll share something that I texted to my friend Sam when he told me he was going to join a protest, because there's been protests all over the country since he won. And I'll share what I said to him. The only way we're going to get through this is by being together. It might be cheesy, but that's what I'm clinging to. And more so than ever, if you disagree with what Trump represents, what he says, the reactions that he's inciting in parts of the United States, more so now than ever, we're going to have to actively fight for what we stand for. And we'll see how it goes. So let's go now to my and I feel so kind of cheap doing plugs right now, but I'll link in the description. The day before Election Day, I had a joke of mine quoted in a New York Times article, which was fun, and so I'll link to that, and I'll link to my to tickets to my next performance of my one-man show. But now let's go to my chat with my good friend Maribeth Mooney. This is like an EMF cover, because when I record podcasts in my apartment, which is around the corner from a firehouse, I get radio interference from their radios. I remember you
talking about that on one of your podcasts.
Oh yeah, it was driving me crazy.
And you didn't know what it was for the longest time.
Yeah, I was literally walking around with my recorder and my microphone in different rooms of my house going, okay, no, it's not here. And
like a Geiger counter in your own apartment.
Yeah, so I found that I have a little system set up that kind of.
What is this made of? Is this fabric? A special type of fabric?
It's some sort of EMF blocking fabric.
What is electronic?
I think it stands for electromagnetic frequencies.
Yeah,
if I had to guess.
Yeah, that sounds very professional as well.
Yeah. Because all I literally did was I just Googled Mark Maron podcast equipment, and it's like, okay, that's how I'll do it.
Oh, if you Google that, it's right there, like
there's a USA Today article about it.
Okay.
So I want to go back real quick and then I'm going to learn about your life, because I find you a very fascinating person, Maribeth Mooney.
I find you much more fascinating, but go on.
because I met you because Lawson Leon said I should message you to do your show at Otto's Shrunken Head, and then that's how we met. But if we can go back real quickly before we started recording, you were talking to me about doing shows on cruise ships.
Oh my God! If you ever get an opportunity to do, or somebody asks you to do a show on a cruise ship, grab it in a second. You do have to be squeaky clean. You can be super creative about it. So what I initially did was, and that's when my show at Otto's was weekly.
Right.
And I also was producing a lot of other shows, one-offs, and I was producing a festival, Estrogenius, which was
I know the Estrogenius Festival.
Yeah, well, they used to have a stand-up for Estro.
Oh,
and
really?
so there was a stand-up portion, and I'd love to do it again. We had we had a difficult time, a lot of challenges because we couldn't get an audience because our shows were after the place. They started at 10 p.m.
Yeah,
They also had a
hard.
very large theater. You know how hard it is to fill a club or a bar.
Right.
So filling a 50 or 100 seat theater, even if you get 30 people, it looks like, oh God, the wind's out of your sails. You're playing to an empty house. So
Right.
there was a lot of challenges. The comics were fantastic, and it was my usual 20-minute sets, like people, and we didn't have a hard stop, so I just let people roll. Can we curse?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I was going to say, I was going to let them fucking roll.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So I used that show and that festival because I performed in every one of them. And there was like 10 shows.
Yeah.
I got a lot of women up. I had the weekly show at Otto's, so I was just banging out, writing material, and then turning my filthy stuff clean.
Right.
So just changing references. But once I got on the cruise ship and I saw the median age is 80, and
Right.
there's people much older. And they're celebrating. Everybody's there for retirement or, oh my God, it's my 85th birthday.
Yeah.
There was an 80-year-old man there with his dad in a wheelchair with the oxygen. I was like, holy crap. But these people were so fun. And they were there.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of breast cancer survivors. So it's super easy crowd. They're ready there to celebrate and laugh and be happy.
Yeah.
They're not going to heckle. They're not going to be drunk and drinking and yelling because their
Right.
blood pressure medication, this and that. This is going to be their last drink. So, this is like, not to be
Right.
morbid, but
It's a last hurrah kind of situation.
Yeah, and
or
even-
I even hate to. It's something. It's the I've got to do this while I still have time to do it kind of crowd.
right. And there were people there that it's really cheap for them. There are a lot of people that live in Florida go on cruises like a couple a month because
Right.
they get this like silver card or platinum card that allows them for like super cheap to just go on a cruise to Mexico and go to Europe or go wherever they go. And if they have guests in town, they just hop on a cruise. So these are the regulars,
Yeah.
and they're super fun. It's like anybody's grandparents, but nice, not nagging, like
Right.
sweethearts. So you really just have to be adorable and likable. And like what we were saying before, like show busy.
Exactly, like pure entertainment, like not
Exactly.
Yeah, not like this
Not
isn't the moment.
intellectual.
Yeah, not intellectual, not like revolutionary, like
You're
social
not changing
change.
minds. You're not looking for a well-crafted joke with, hey, that guy has a point. No political stuff.
Right.
You just want to be silly. Silly is the name of the game. Entertainment. So once I got there and I got a feel for, okay, like maybe this is not going to be as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I used to, like years ago, do an impression of my mother.
Right.
Because my mother had a very distinct New York accent. This is the way she talked. And my
I love
mother,
that accent.
I grew up with it. And we are not Jewish, but my parents.
I was thinking, it was like, is Maribeth Jewish? I didn't
No,
think
but
she
my
was.
parents were raised in a Jewish neighborhood in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah.
So they all sounded like, my dad sounded like Bernie Sanders, neighborhood,
Right.
the
neighborhood.
mirror, water, get a glass of water. You need a water? My father's catchphrase is, how's by you? How's by you? That's an old Jewish man. And my mother's catchphrase, my mother had a catchphrase, and it was, I damn near died. And I was saying, it's like aloha. I damn near
Right.
died was for happy, it was for sad, good news, bad news.
Right.
I
It's like-
damn near died.
It's like, oh, I saw that musical Righteous. I damn near died. It was so good.
It was so good.
It was so good. I couldn't even imagine. I damn near died.
I was on the subway. A man literally died and had a heart attack. I damn near died. I damn near died. So I did that. It went over like I was like standing ovation type of thing, like holding for laughs, taking a sip of water, like calm down, folks. There's plenty of that. I was like, all right, this is good. And then like the second day, I was like, all right, if I have a joke that's like, it's not really that funny, I would do it as my mom.
Right.
It's gold. and I became an instant celebrity. So I'd be walking around the cruise ship, and people go, "Oh my God, there's Damn Near Died. Can we get a picture with you?" I was known by my catchphrase.
Right.
So I'm like posing for pictures with people. They're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
so where do you work in the city? We want to come see you." They think I'm some famous comic. I'm like, I'm a schlub. I am a schlub with bar shows, and I was more than happy. So my nerves after the first show, it became a pure joy.
Yeah.
And then you literally got so comfortable because they're not going to heckle you. They're not drunk. They're not assholes. You're playing with them. And then you can safely do crowd work. You're not making fun of them. You're with them in the aging process. We're all aging. And then the only time I got a little bit of trouble was making fun of the cruise ship itself.
Right.
You don't want to do that because they're kind of like, they're a little pick, like the cruise ship. There was at one point they have what's the cruise ship terminology for turbulence? But we were rocking.
Yeah, like rough seas, choppy.
But maybe there's a word, but it's we're truly something's wrong.
Yeah.
And I've seen Titanic way too many times. And I am in my cabin, and I don't have a window because that's for the fancy people. And all of a sudden, I felt really like I'm going to have a seizure. I'm ill. I'm ill.
Right.
Because I guess your inner ear.
Yeah, it messes with your equilibrium. Yeah, like if your equilibrium senses that you're moving but your body isn't. Same way, like if people who get car sick, if you're looking out the side of a
right.
Or I found lately, if I'm at a this has started happening to me lately. If I'm like looking at my phone too much when I'm in a cab that's like getting jostled around, I'll be like, ugh. Yeah, like when I'm in a cab or a car and trying to read, Twitter, I'll get a little bit of that. But this was like a panic attack, unlike any panic attack I ever had. Oh,
so I remember running out of going, okay, I'm going to die. And I don't know why I have this feeling of doom. And I'm out in the hallway, there's nobody there. I'm like, okay, finish putting on your makeup because I was going to dinner.
Yeah.
And they had this thing where you could sign up and sit at people's tables with them. And that was like fantastic. And it's like being at a wedding reception every night,
Right,
you're meeting people. Hi, I'm Maribeth. And you're just sitting and you're learning about these people. So I'm going to the dining room. Literally doors are swinging, open and shut. Like we're on rough seas.
Yeah.
But I guess they're trained to go, no, there's nothing wrong.
Oh yeah, because you don't want to incite like,
and I'm looking at this man
on
going,
the lifeboats.
I am having the largest panic attack of my life, and he's like, "There's nothing wrong. I don't know what you're talking about." And like glasses are flying. So at one point, I had my iPhone and I recorded the door opening and shutting, like there's a ghost coming through.
Wow.
So I sit down and I meet these couples, and I have dinner with them, and I'm telling them I'm having a panic attack. And again, remember, you're at a table of grandparents, so they're more than happy to take care of me. And it was fantastic. And they were like, "Oh, we saw you. You're very funny." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." Gave them my card. They didn't stay in touch, but what are you gonna do? I got back to New York. They could have died. That's so mean. That's so mean. I didn't say that. Okay, so, but isn't it horrible? I would rather them be dead than choosing
ignore
than ignore me.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they're dead. Okay, that's a good reason. That's a good reason.
I need attention so badly. But so that was fantastic. I go out on the deck. It's the pitch black, and I videotape like the waves coming up, and then I all of a sudden go, okay, this isn't even funny anymore. That's the scariest feeling in the world.
Right.
I felt like I was looking at death in the face because it's just blackness, and I'm alone, and it's nothingness, it's space, and I'm going, oh my God, what is life all about? Then I went into this whole existential crisis going, oh my God, why are we here? What is my purpose? Like when it's over, you spend more time dead than you're alive, and why even get out of bed? And I'm like, I got to get off this deck, man. It was a head trip.
That's like the void staring back into you.
Exactly. Looking into your soul of nothingness, and you're going, I am a speck. I'm not even a speck. Specks have more,
right,
dignity right now and more presence than I ever will. And I had to get the hell out of there. It depressed the hell out of me. But
Oh
I
my
actually,
gosh.
I voice recorded me having the existential crisis. So I listen to it every so often. You know, if I'm feeling too good about life, I
Right.
need to bring
You
myself
got to
down.
humble yourself.
Yeah.
Got to bring yourself
Things
back
are
down to
going
that.
well. I just listen to that.
Right.
Watch the waves and go, oh, that's right. It's meaningless.
Yeah, exactly.
You're-
You don't want to get like Rocky and Rocky 3 where he's
No.
just like soft. You got to stay hungry. You got to
Gotta
stay like
stay
Rocky
hungry.
1, Rocky 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just finished up the Rockies, so that's fresh in my mind.
Oh yeah, I love those movies so very.
Me too. And you
yeah.
know what else I love? Mafia movies.
I love mafia movies too because outside of the crime and the jail and the probably getting killed by someone that you're close to,
Right.
being in the mafia seems like like the scene in Goodfellas where the single tracking shot where you go in, you avoid the line going through the back.
Yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
says hi to you and you laugh, and then they set up a special table for you, and then Henny Youngman tosses off some great "Take My Wife's."
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty fun existence.
It's a club.
Exactly.
club.
It's a club.
And the stakes are super high. You can die at any moment.
Which has to be kind of exciting.
Exactly, because we're comics. We live on adrenaline rushes. And if we do, like you said, we cannot get comfortable. And
No,
we purposely put ourselves in situations to be uncomfortable
Yes.
constantly. So imagine how exhilarating that is. At any moment, your best friend, your father, your brother, anyone could kill you. Or you could just go into a car and it will explode because it's a car bomb.
Yeah.
Like I can't get enough of those movies, and just the psychology, they're
Mm-hmm.
real nice to the guy knowing they're going to kill him, and they just calmly plot it out like it's a business plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I find it absolutely fascinating.
Oh, me too. And like comedy on like a much like lower level, I feel is that same kind of club.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's that same sort of club. Like you gotta make your bones basically before you're in the club, and then if you fuck up, you'll be out and done.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the only rule is you got to be consistently funny. Don't steal. Because
Yeah.
really, everybody's allowed. If you're consistently funny, or at least trying your best, and
Exactly.
you don't
If you're
steal,
making an effort and you don't steal, then you're in.
you're in. That's the only every color, every size. You could be the ugliest person in high school, dweebiest person in college, but to make it, you want to be part of the club. If you're consistently funny, you don't steal. You don't even have to treat people well. We know people that
No, yeah,
don't
you
treat
really
people
don't.
well.
Yeah, that's
they're not
optional.
really nice, but we've put them on shows because they kill, and they're good comics. So even
Right.
being a good guy isn't even, again, like the mafia.
Yeah, because you guys like, oh, that guy's crazy.
Oh yeah, that guy is batshit. That girl is batshit crazy. There's a few of them that they're absolutely nuts, and you see them on social media, you're like, holy crap. However, in performance, they deliver a brilliant set.
Yeah.
And there's a few that come to mind, and it's like they're enjoyable to work with because I laugh my ass off. I don't care. I don't care if you're bonkers.
Oh yeah, exactly. I like when I start, because like I don't know if this is the same with you, maybe because I grew up very insulated in like this sort of like and this is what's considered normal by like suburban America
Yeah, me
standards.
too, yeah.
But then when I started getting into like when I wanted to start a band in high school, and then when I wanted to do when I did want to do comedy, when I started getting into like punk and all that kind of stuff, I started dealing with some real lovable whack jobs.
Oh yeah.
And I love those people.
Right.
I love the guy. I'm a big fan of the guy who has like a one word nickname, and I don't learn his real name until like 8 years later.
You have no idea. Yeah, what his actual name is, Frederick Williams, or where he lives.
Yeah, or my friend's name was Jason, but I just called him Shrek for like 4 years.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And he was a friend of the guy who was my drummer in high school. And then like I love all those people because I find those people to be like the people I have common ground with, even if I don't dye my hair anymore or have piercings.
Yeah.
That kind
well,
of thing.
it's the miscast, the outsiders, I was always the square
island
peg.
of misfit toys.
Yeah, that's what I always was. And I found that in community theater. So I was doing community theater in Pennsylvania, and again,
You're from Pennsylvania?
Well, from the Bronx, and
From the Bronx.
Then we did some time in South Jersey.
What part of Jersey?
Willingboro.
I don't know where that is.
Mount Laurel, Cherry Hill.
Yeah, okay.
So like a suburb of Philly.
Right.
And then it was because of my dad's job. And then they all settled in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
I see.
And they all stayed in that area. And I did not like it from the get-go. I didn't have a good time in Willingboro either. My grade school years that's where the bullying and taunting, and that's where I think my personality became real. Well, no, even in the Bronx, I don't really.
Yeah.
I had a rough time, but
What was the Bronx like in that when you were growing up? Because my image of the Bronx coming from outside of New York is like the Bronx is like, it's just like the South Bronx, and that's like and that it's like really dangerous. And even still today, my only experience of the Bronx is Yankee Stadium.
Oh, okay.
That's about as far up as I go.
You know what? My memory of it is similar to Brooklyn. It was a neighborhood, so it was all families. And remember, I'm old. This was the '60s, so it's pre-crack.
Okay.
And I think there probably was some heroin and definitely other drugs, but I think those people were in Manhattan. I would assume. At least I'm going by movies.
Sure,
That's my reference. I'm going by Al Pacino movies here. Those were Manhattan. Midnight Cowboy took place in Manhattan.
Right.
So I didn't see it because remember it's suburbia still.
Yeah.
It's my little Irish Catholic bubble that I've consistently been in with a mom and a dad and a dog, and we had the whole nine. And it was Catholic school all the way, 16 years.
So you were 16 years in Catholic school.
Oh yeah, even college. Do you believe it?
Wow.
The only time I stepped foot in a public school was to go to summer school, which I went consistently every single year.
Oh,
because
really?
I would go in September and just basically because I'm horrible at math. And we just look at the math teacher and Joe, just give me an F now. Like, why do I even have to wait till June? I'm going to summer school. Just give me an F. Let me go. Like, I didn't even try. I was held back in the first grade.
Oh, yeah?
When I was like, they treated me like, what's wrong with her? Like it was like English was my second language. I remember I never was so lost in my life. Like, I'm like, where did you people learn numbers? I was still coloring. It was like over the summer, all the kids went to college and like they came back in and knew numbers and shit and like sentences and periods and semicolons. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm still trying to discern green and blue. I'm still working on the crayons here.
Right.
So I was super lost, and I have a very vivid memory of that. I remember my parents sitting me down and saying, we're going to hold you back now before it's embarrassing. Meanwhile, the rest of my life was just a series of embarrassments. They were like, they should have just reframed it and said, we're going to set the stage for failure for you.
Right.
So we're going to hold you back now, so not to get your hopes up. Every single year of grade school, you may not be promoted to the next grade. It was like an improv class.
Oh my gosh!
Like the
You would hear
groundlings.
this at the beginning. You'd hear this at the beginning of the year.
This is how I began my grade school year.
How do you set up a kid like that?
Oh my God! Well, like I said, my parents softened it, but I heard, hey kid, you got to earn that. You got to earn that passing. I'm like, holy shit! So so I go to first grade the second time around.
Right.
And, wear the same uniform, a little tight this time because I'm growing and I'm bigger than all of you guys, but no embarrassment here.
Right.
You guys are 6, I'm 7. It just increased the dork value. Now I'm just like, I'm at Olympic level, assholery, and I'm 7.
Right. So so elementary school were like the bad years for you.
Yeah.
So did the other kids because that was 6th and 7th grade? That was that for me. So were you like the one? That's when it
hit the apex for me.
Yeah. So you were like the one that the other kids like singled out as the one to.
Yes, and then I was very tall quickly. Like I'm a tall adult now, but I'm not tall to the point of like I can buy my clothes in regular stores. Like I'm not.
Tell me what that's like.
Okay, that I didn't mean to.
No, I know. I know.
But people treat me like a freak. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
fit in normal size, simmer people. I'm not a freak, but I was treated as a freak because I was taller than all the teachers.
Oh,
Like I
wow,
was,
yeah.
I was like 5'8" and like, the 5th grade, 6th grade, So, and I had the thick glasses
Yeah.
and the very thick, hair. So it just crazy curly hair. So, and then my parents gave me braces because, why not?
Yeah. Why not just go for the whole
Why not just
trifecta?
put me in a wheelchair and just give me a dunce cap at this point. I'll roll with it. Meanwhile, now I'm happy. I got look at the teeth.
Oh.
Look at that. Aren't they great?
Perfect. Yeah, I had
exactly.
braces too.
Yeah, see, we got good smiles.
Yeah.
That's probably why I smile a lot, because I'm just like, look at this. I had to suffer for these teeth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just like,
this is welcome to bullying. Okay, this is bullying for 3 years. So yes, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade were the apex of just no one would sit with me. Nobody liked me. They had horrible people. I remember in 6th grade, because kids will call you names and not know the meaning of the words.
Yep.
Like
Oh yeah,
people-
I was in 5th grade. I got called faggot by so
I
many
was gonna
people who
say,
didn't
faggot
know
was-
what that meant.
Right. And I remember that was the phrase he used for boys.
Yeah.
If you were a horrible person, that was just faggot was the go-to word.
Yeah.
And for women, it was slut. Now, no one in 6th grade is sexually active.
Right.
And I don't even know what slut is, but I knew it was derogatory. So, and that was just like faggot. It's code for, another way to insult you.
Yeah. It's code
And-
for you're not as good as me.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm 54. So in my day, this was like the paper version of Facebook, and they were called slam books. And it was a composition book that they would pass around, and you had a page, and we would write things about you. And rarely was it nice. It was usually like, yeah, he's a faggot, he's an asshole. And the more creative you were with your or if you had a series of, ugly, stupid, ass wipe, fuck face, that was like, it was like the equivalent of getting 5 likes, on that one.
Right, exactly.
And I remember the consistent one on my page was tall, ugly slut. And I was just like, I don't even know what slut is. And then when I learned what the word was, I kind of went, I wish I could go back there and laugh and go, really? Really, guys? So you're saying I was like getting like sexual. I was like
Right.
bringing suitors back to my parents' house at 6th grade. Like,
Right,
oh yeah,
yeah.
Mama's working it. That would be kind of a good thing, So no one liked me enough to fuck me. But it
God.
was a horrible thing. And I remember seeing that and remember how much it hurt. And it was the first time, it was interesting. It was the first time that I never knew I was ugly. Like seeing it in writing and seeing so many people write it. And that was like, wow, I'm considered ugly by the school. And that was it was in print. So it was real in my brain. But I had this just such a suit of armor at this point. So I remember going, telling my mother, and my mother was tall as well. She was 5'8", and she had the crazy hair, and my mother was funny. And she was like, listen, you're going to turn around because in the world, being tall is a very good thing. And you're going to turn around and you're going to be gorgeous like a model and you're going to show up. And she was like this whole revenge plot. And it was fantastic for my little 13-year-old brain. I needed to hear that.
Yes.
Like you're going to go back and you're going to have an opportunity. You're going to be like, yeah, you're going to show them up and you're going to go places in life. And I was like, huh. So then I had a secret. So the more they taunted me, I was like, keep it up, keep it up. And you know what? Sure enough, those fuckers found me on Facebook, friended me. I was like, accept. Because you know what? You guys are goddamn losers. And, oh, yeah, check it out. That's a picture of me in a bikini at the age of 50. Yeah,
Right.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine their lives probably didn't pan out quite as well.
Yeah, a lot of sadness, a lot of divorce, a lot of like GoFundMe, a lot of, and I mean, there's not Schadenfreude as much as I feel like, and now they're being nice to me, and I've gotten some emails that like, hey, like these mea culpa emails, and I'm just like, hey, it's cool. Like, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, as would I. Like,
You ruined my life. You people. I sat alone in a bedroom for many years, had no friends, and really didn't. I can't even say I was suicidal because I didn't even understand that concept.
were you an only child, if you don't mind asking?
No. But I felt like one. I wish I was.
Just because that sounds so similar to what I was going through, because I was only child, getting made fun of, and then just going back and then
No, but
chilling in my room.
you would think I was, because I definitely isolated myself, and they're all there, and they're very similar. They married, had kids.
Yeah.
And they from my perspective, have similar lives. I think they would see differences in each other. We fight like cat and dog. We fought like cat and dog as children. Like,
Yeah.
I don't ever remember not fighting with my siblings. And now we're all in our 50s and we still fight. Like, we don't get along. The key difference, and again, my perspective, they were all very popular.
Right.
They all
so they
had-
didn't have the experience to
Right. We had different growing up.
know what you were.
And my
dealing
older
with.
sister even said, and which is true, we had different parents. She and I, we're 12 months, 15 days apart, Irish Catholic. So we had a different set of parents than my brother and younger sister. We wore them out. They were like super like, yeah, go out, stay out. Here's keys to the car. We had really strict parents. We had very, they weren't warm and fuzzy when they had the two of us.
Right.
We had chores. We we got sent back to school. It was a whole different experience. But the three of them were like, they have friends from grade school that I don't have. Like my oldest friends are from high school, and those I had to earn. I had to earn that. It was like stand up. I had to go out there and charm the pants off those people. It was like a job. I remember going, and I went to a different high school than they did on purpose, because I was like, I need to clean the slate. And that was high school for me.
Right.
Was,
Where'd you go to high school? Because I hear in New York you like pick your high school. Was that
oh yeah,
the
and
case?
I went to high school in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, all girls school, St. Francis Academy. It's now shut down, but think of it. This is a girl who was relentlessly taunted.
Yeah.
And everything was bad. So my graduating class was 27 girls. So it's a small room.
Really
I
small.
can work a small room.
Right.
The entire high school was like 90s. There was like maybe 90 people. I don't even think we broke 100. All young girls of insecurities. Good, I can work with this. I can work with this. I don't have to deal with like the machismo of a teenage boy.
Totally.
A lot of nuns. I can charm nuns. I can do this. I raised a real Catholic family. So I looked at it
You're on the
early
cruise
on,
ship.
like exactly, is the same mentality as a cruise ship. I'm looking at, I need to survive. And I would love, like, the notion of having a friend or friends would be kind of awesome to help me, get through the waters of, the next 4 years of my life. So I really was pretty strategic, and went in there, guns a-slinging, jokes. I was class clown all 4 years. No one was surprised I went to New York to become a comic. But like I said, it was a strategic move. I was like, boom, I'm not going to get class president, but I'm always going to be the one you're going to want to sit with at lunch. I got your back. I'll be your buddy. Because I was a wounded soldier. I went in there like, guys, I had the amount of empathy I had at the age of 14. Because
the amount of shit that you've been through.
Exactly. So I had for the first time was a popular person, and I almost didn't know what to do with it. It was actually quite daunting, but I also knew it was because of my personality. It had nothing to do with my looks, because remember, now I know it's facts that I'm ugly. So I'm like, okay, it's all a bunch of women. Nobody cares how pretty you are. There's no prettiness. We weren't allowed to wear makeup. We had uniforms.
Right.
So
It's like everyone's on the same.
It was a leveling
level.
play field, but there were still some girls that were so goddamn beautiful. But you know what? Still, it was accepted. Oh, that's the pretty girl. I was the funny one. So it took the sweat off of me. I was like, I don't have to. All I have to do is keep the jokes fresh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Be likable, get on that cruise ship, get on that, do my mother. And I was doing my mother early on. I would do my mother to my mother. My mother would laugh hysterically because it wasn't a mean impersonation.
Yeah, it's kind of endearing.
It's very endearing.
Yeah.
Then high school was my turnaround. High school was still rough, don't get me wrong.
Oh, well, high school is just like...
Yeah, because they also, my friends from high school were then like, growing up and doing what normal teenagers do, get popular and get attractive. And dates and get successful. And I did not. I stayed at the same level of loser. I'm consistent. So I was like watching my friends going, wow, but they never left me, because I was always the one that they would call and they'd look for a laugh. So at least they didn't ditch me for their newfound, social lives. But I did have to be the third wheel and watch them, get successful. And their parents bought them a car and, wow, I'm still riding the bus.
Right.
I'm still missing the bus. And getting my mother, she would get mad and she'd have to drive me to school. And then I'd have to hear the whole way, how I ruined the day. And like, yeah, well, it's pretty much while I was born to ruin people's lives.
Yeah. So was there ever tension between you and your folks, or was
that didn't... there was. I think it was more we as a collective kids were a constant sort of tension to our parents. My mother was an only child, so she couldn't understand why siblings would fight. Like, I wanted siblings my whole life. You guys have instant friends. How do you not love each other? And we were looking at her like, are you nuts?
Be like, this person is too close to me.
You stuck me in a bedroom with this lunatic who I've hated. Like these people are out to destroy me.
Right.
And we've always viewed each other as the enemy. And it's...
Yeah. Like I hear about, and I don't have the experience to like quantify any of this, but I hear about the siblings that are like, oh, my brother's my best friend. And I'm just
what
like,
the fuck?
It sounds weird.
Doesn't it?
It sounds so weird.
I'm sorry.
Or like even like if you're like, or it's like, oh, my, like these grown men, they're like, oh, my dad's my best friend. I love hanging out with my dad. I'm like, it's weird to me.
Exactly, me too.
It's really weird.
That is odd. And people, I guess, think people like us are weird. Someone will say, my brother's coming in town. My knee-jerk reaction is, I'm sorry. Like, do you need an excuse? Do you need to get out of it? Because I can give you can come and like, no, it's a good thing. Like, wow, really? And you see like posts on social media. Hey, here's me at Thanksgiving. Hey, here's me with like, we're having a good time. We're going to a hockey game together. What the hell is wrong with you? Who the fuck does that? Who chooses your family to hang out with and randomly, not even like on a forced holiday or like a funeral or a wedding?
No,
that to me is weird.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because like, I mean, when I was younger, yes, me and my dad would hang out because,
well, you had to.
Yeah, but he's just not. If I'm going through the list of like, oh, I got an extra ticket to this like soccer game or this concert, like who would I want to go to?
Yeah,
I'm not defaulting to, oh, let me call like someone I'm related to.
Yeah,
I'm like, let me think of who I like, who I would, and I'm not saying I don't like my parents, but
cares.
Who would care?
Yeah, who would care? A funny. And I think it's two-sided with my family. It's just, we just don't get along. When I had my second bunionectomy, such a glamorous life. Podcast listeners, when Will got here, I was scrubbing my toilet. So I'm just going to pull the veil off the glamour here.
No, this is the kind of gritty, realistic portrayal of the working comedian's life that I'm trying to get out into the world.
Scrubbing the toilet. So when I had my second bunion done, my older sister came in because my younger sister came in for the first. So I think that they, and then Lord knows we try to do the normal, be there for each other. We can't, right. And I think it's time. We're in our 50s. Like, let's just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't like each other. I don't hate you. We choose not to hang out with each other. That's cool.
Yeah.
So she comes in, and I'm nervous, and I'm, because of course I think I'm going to die with the anesthesia, because I got a nervousness about anesthesia, because it's like the cruise ship looking into the void, and it's, I have a whole fear of sleep, which I'm seeing it. Do you know I have a fear of sleep?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm seeing a doctor at Mount Sinai, sleep specialist, and they're teaching me how to sleep.
They're teaching you how to sleep.
Yeah, it's
what are their just real quick before you continue, I need to know what the tips for sleep are for Mount Sinai.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's on the sleepdisordersfoundation.org. It's on their website. And I've had it my whole life, but it's gotten to a point where what made me address it, I never occurred to me that I could address it as a medical issue. I saw sleep doctors, people that specialize in it, and I was becoming dependent on sleep medication. And I have addiction in my family. I think we all do. And I was very concerned about that. And I really don't want to have that monkey on my back.
Right.
And it got to the point where I was dependent on the medication, grew a tolerance to it, and it was no longer working. And the answer is never more medication. It's especially for something like sleep, which should be a natural thing that people do. And I've already addressed, about 10 years ago, my fear. It was an actual fear. And therapists didn't know how to deal with that. They're like, how can you be afraid of sleep? And I'm like, well, because in my mind, how do I know I'm going to wake up? If I should die before I wake. That was a prayer we used to say as kids growing up. So there's a possibility every night. Not only are you going to be let back from every grade in September, good luck, kid, but every single night you go to bed, you may not wake up. Have a good life. What the fuck? Then people wonder why I have anxiety.
Right.
I mean, come on. I don't know if I'm going to get through the next 24 hours.
I've always heard of guilt when it comes to Catholicism. I've never heard the fear expressed so beautifully before.
Oh yes. So and a lot of crown of thorns and torture, and you do a bad thing, you're going to hell.
Right.
And I always would look to my parents going, well, on my deathbed, I'll just ask for absolution. Well, you might not have an opportunity. And I was like, and then, like the mafia style, my parents were like, what do you think? The hitman's going to come and get me? I'm 4. So
Jesus Christ.
yes. So I'm like, maybe you won't see it coming.
Right.
So you'll be walking down the street.
Maybe you won't see it coming. Yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not exactly saying.
Pass the potatoes.
Yeah. But I'm like, maybe counter-inferring that maybe it'd be a good idea if you would maybe be absolute, because you might not have the opportunity
You may not have the opportunity, Mayor. I'm just saying.
It could come quick in the night.
By the way, what did your math teacher say? So, every year, every summer in public school, with the math, with all the other people were cool because they were like drug addicts and, no, I was just stupid. So, but anyway, going back to the fear of sleep. So, painted the room green, which you saw. The bedroom is painted green.
Yes.
And it's very soothing and a lot of soft. And Will laid on my bed earlier.
It's a wonderfully soft bed.
Yeah, so I really invested in top notch.
That's good.
And
is that memory
you
foam?
didn't get to no, because the memory foam annoys me. This is even more plush. And you didn't get to feel the sheets, but the sheets are really, really super soft, and it's a killer comforter. I really went all night. Out. Yeah, nice. I went all out. I have to power down around 9 p.m. So that means I cheat all the time. You're not supposed to be on social media. I do have the flux on my MacBook, and I have the dimmer thing on the iPhone. If I do cheat, which I cheat a lot.
Right.
I take lowest dosage of melatonin, 0.5 at 8 p.m. And you start your power down mode. Yeah. No bad news, no dealing with people that are going to get you upset, no dealing with soft music. I sewed a bunch of really fun pajamas that make me happy, herbal tea. I read a book on this here beautiful sofa. So you just kind of want to gently glide into bed and make it a happy experience. I have a sleep log that I log in what time I went to bed, when I took the melatonin, any caffeine that I have. You're supposed to give sleep 20 minutes to a half hour. If you don't fall asleep, you get out of the bed, come out here to read. nothing interesting, things that are boring.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't sleep, it's not the end of the world. You will eventually, you're training your brain that midnight is sleep time. And it's using cognitive retraining and making sleep a pleasant, happy thing and associating it with pleasantness instead of fearful and death.
Right.
And I told my sleep doctor that he should see The Machinist. Have you ever seen that movie, Christian Bale?
No, I didn't see it.
Holy shit. That's what my insomnia felt like and feels like. And at one point, that it almost like, because I have a problem keeping weight on, and he gets very gaunt and thin because of his insomnia. That was me. I was getting bone thin, running around Manhattan at 3 o'clock in the morning, running from some crazy fear because I was so sleep deprived that I was, and I'd gone so many nights without sleep that I was hallucinating. Like I was at one point, I resigned myself to the fact that I'm going mad. Like, this is what madness feels like. And I remember sitting on the floor in that bedroom going, okay, this is the beginning of madness. Like, going, okay, I'll probably spend the rest of my life in an institution. This is the way it's going to be. I don't know what's real, what's not. I'm very aware of that. And it was all related to a lack of sleep and an autoimmune disease that wasn't diagnosed. And later, I was so glad to find that out, which caused the weight loss and caused a lot of the insomnia. But the insomnia is a learned behavior. It's kind of like overeating or anything that becomes a health issue. So if you're so used to eating, French fries, it is very similar to something like that, where I have to teach myself to not stay up all night. Like like tonight, like on weekends, like last night, I cheated. I'm not gonna lie, and I put it on my log. I went to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because I look at the night as it's mine. I'm gonna conquer it. I'm gonna just do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna beat death. I'm gonna be like, oh, you're not gonna lure me into that bed. I still got things to do. I'm not going out on that deck of that cruise ship. What is this?
The first thing I thought, I just imagined, did you ever see the Prodigy video that got banned for Smack My Bitch Up?
No.
Oh, this was like, it came out
YouTube?
like, I think you can find it on YouTube now, or like one of those other sites like eBombs World or something like that.
Okay.
They're this, like, I believe they're a British like electronic dance kind of group, and this video got banned like crazy, and like on MTV back when Kurt Loder was still on MTV.
Oh yeah.
And when they did
back
show
when
it,
people
it had
still
these
watched it.
It had these this like crazy long like disclaimer. It's shot from a first person view of this of someone going through like a really crazy night. So they're like going out there eating like they're drinking, doing a bunch of drugs, eating a bunch of food, throwing it up, having a bunch of crazy public bathroom sex. Going back into the club, drinking more, like a really wild. If you were to imagine what a crazy, drug-fueled Run Lola Run-esque dance party-fueled night of insanity was, where and then you just end up fucking a lot of people.
Wow.
And then at the very end of the video, like the person you're following brings this woman back to her apartment, and you sleep with them, and then they leave. And then at the very end, you see the camera looks in the mirror, and it's been a woman the entire time, and then she just passes out.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That sounds a lot of like what life was like for me in my 20s, drug fueled. But having these wonderful adventures, if you will.
No, that stuff's exciting.
Starting at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And again, I can see, and I was telling the doctor, I said I could see how I was setting the stage early for this sleep disorder. And I've been living with it for so long and feeding it and feeding the fear that I've only just a couple of months ago started addressing it. So it's going to take me a while. And I said, I'm ready to do it.
Right.
And I'm honest when I cheat. And there's nights I'm totally good. And, clearly I want to have less cheating nights and more
Right.
good nights.
Yeah.
But, I remember running around and it was like conquering the night. And that's before
Yeah.
the fear. It was just that, like you said, that adrenaline. We're adrenaline junkies. And
Yeah,
that running
exactly.
and fun. And it wasn't until later that, okay, now drugs are not in my life anymore. But I still equate the evening with productivity and doing stuff. And also,
too.
aren't you more creative? I find my best jokes, my best ideas when I was doing art, drawing, my best drawings, my best when I sew. I've built stuff in the middle of the night.
Oh yeah, no, my wildest, like, because that's my creative
Yeah,
time.
me
Because
too.
my mind's set up for you go to work, you work during the day.
Yeah, you're doing logical,
Like,
normal people, grown-up stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
And for me, trying to appear normal is
Yes.
the hardest part.
But you know what?
And then your creative times after like 4 or
Yes.
5 o'clock.
Yes.
That's when the creative
that's a
stuff
good
goes
way.
happen.
Yes, that's your real self, your true self.
Yeah.
And that's, I think you hit the nail on the noggin. I think I spoke to a couple comics about this, and you're playing a role. It's an acting game. So
Yeah.
when you get up in the morning, I act like a grown-up, and I have the costume, and I know how to behave, and I even, use the right words. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't use crazy language and curse a lot, and I did read that in USA Today. Thank you. I know how to do it. But you're right. After a certain o'clock, then we're back to that crazy rebel kid that was beat up, but the survivor. So we're the
Exactly.
creative. All those bullies did were that you created a monster of like now.
You just made me more of what I am.
You made me
The more you
terrific.
make fun of me for what I am, the more I want to be that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to marry more same-sex couples. You guys hate
Yeah.
that? Sorry. There's more of that where that comes. I am going to paint. I'm going to draw. I'm going to sew. I'm going to write the most horrible jokes that are going to. And you know what? People will not block me or unfriend me, and I ask them to. I'm like, I'm going to offend you. I'm going to write some offensive stuff.
Yeah.
And I put that post up at least like 4 months or every 4 months, hoping the people that get offended will go, yeah, she's garbage person. No, they stay in there and just, oh my God, just judge. And they're just clutching their pearls. And I'm just like, guys.
Exactly. Like the uptight PTA moms are just like, oh, gluten.
I know. And it's like, for crying out loud, you want to get these people really their feathers ruffled. Planned Parenthood. Why?
Yeah.
Just mention it.
Yeah.
It's like,
just
put
go crazy.
those 2 words.
Yeah.
You don't have to say you like it, you don't like it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
The month of June, I gay up my social media, hoping to drive away. No, they stay there and just love to. Oh, it's the most horrible thing in the world. It's gonna get gayer every year, guys. It's gonna keep getting gayer.
Yeah. Gayer and gayer every year. That's the way we're going.
And I initially did not do it to annoy people, but then when I saw it's like, all right, well,
Yeah, because I think there's a part of that, and maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's a part of the comedian's brain that not quite contrarian in everyone, but there's a certain part of me that if I get someone uptight, upset, that brings me joy in a weird way.
Because like Bill Burr talks a lot about that, and so does Doug Stanhope. Doug Stanhope gets just pure joy of just annoying them, and that I love. Did you ever see? It's on YouTube. You type in Doug Stanhope, hurricane victim or atheism. There was this woman. It was one of the hurricanes. It was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Heart of the Bible Belt. And she, the reporter had said, like, we'll keep you in the prayers, or, God. And she said, well, I'm an atheist.
Yes. And then he set up a thing to donate money to her.
And they set up, they gave her, what was it, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
And he went public with it, and I loved that.
Yeah.
Because of her bravery. And he said, you have no idea. And thank God I don't have any idea. I kind of do, because my family is super religious. So the ministry in the same-sex marriaging, that's probably the thing that is their...
That's the thing,
the thorn in their side with me. I mean, they have a... I'm a walking thorn in their side.
Right. Because and for those of you that maybe don't know, Maribeth is I don't know what your title would be, but you can perform marriage ceremonies.
Yeah, I'm a humanist minister. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And humanism is a really a beautiful. It's not a religion. It's I don't know what you would call it. I guess it's treated like a religion. It's you don't believe in a deity or the supernatural. However, some of the most beautiful, some of the most ethical, lovely people are humanists.
Yes.
And there was a humanist minister that I performed at a humanism, atheist, and agnostic foundation event. What was it, last fall in Pennsylvania, and the most brilliant minds, because these are science nerds,
right?
So they're looking for facts. And these people are good people because it's the right thing to do, not because there's a fear of God or a fear of eternal damnation.
Right.
So you're talking highly intelligent people, very compassionate. And I find with religious people, compassion is lacking, just in my experience. Now, that's a pretty broad statement, but I'm saying in my experience.
Right.
And compassion for people that are different, and maybe that transgender people, for instance, people that are marginalized, are treated by religious people with hate. And that to me is wrong on so many levels.
Oh, absolutely.
People who aren't Christian are treated with hate. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your orientation is. I don't care what your gender is. You tell me who, what you want, what pronoun, and we're good to go. I don't. There's not a set of rules for being my friend or working or relating with me.
Yeah.
And to judge somebody on their choices or what they are or who they are just seems to me very silly. It seems like that's a silly God and a silly belief system. So, but I don't want to get into that, because again, we're going to get very divisive here. And you want to talk about religion and politics,
right? But you're more about bringing people together.
It's not
which is
it's about bringing people together. And I'll get a lot of the couples who no one will marry. So people, because even there are some ministers that won't marry people of two different faiths. They or people that won't marry transgender, or people that won't marry. There's a lot of people have rules. I have zero rules.
Right.
So I performed. I'll leave state. I'll travel. I performed weddings in Pennsylvania. Did a lot in Jersey, Boston. Did one in Florida. So I'll travel. I'll go. I'm a last resort minister. I don't care. I can write the ceremony. You can write your vows. I'll write the vows. We can write them together. Let's make it pro-love. Let's do it together. Let's make it a happy thing. And it was very eye-opening, because you saw people in these situations, because it's very, in my experience, they're not people that have supportive families. There's always one or two that are going to be like, or there's somebody on the sidelines, and you can feel that hate.
Yeah.
They'll go there and they'll judge, or you can get a sense of it. So they're also island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
So you can kind of, I can work with that, because I know what that feels like. And that's a delicate balance to make people comfortable. But allowing them to be themselves and to love and live and be happy. Yeah.
Which is an important thing.
And it helped me to feel less alone, because again, I for the longest time felt like a freak, because I don't have the loving, happy family that everybody on social media either has or pretends to have. You got to remember, people are putting an idealized sense of self, and then there's people like you and I that don't have the cookie cutter happy little, you know,
the like
Norman Rockwell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I loved Chris Titus's Norman Rockwell's Bleeding show so much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, just the exploration of people talking about that you know, this image is not what everyone has. That, and I think it's something that Marin talks about a lot as well. Is as a comic, like, one of the things you can do best is make people feel less alone. And I see that that's what I think you do with when you marry people that don't have what other people have based on the advantages afforded them by their situation or their faith.
Absolutely. You're not going to have the bachelor party, the bachelorette party, and the loving, happy woohoo. It's often very, you can feel a heaviness hanging over in some respect, even if it's not physically present. These people have been through significant pain, and even though this is a loving union, there are very real opposition present in their, if not at the ceremony, at their workplace, in their lives, in their communities, and that sucks royal balls. I mean, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
it's, oh my God. So to reassure, I get it, understand it, and we can make our own joy and love, and the fact that we can recognize that there's this heaviness and this negativity presence.
Yeah.
But we don't have to give it a voice. We recognize it, but we don't have to in our heads.
Yeah.
But in our hearts at this moment, and with our words and actions, we can overcome it. So yeah. And that's kind of powerful. And I think that's what you did in your one-man show, because I knew your story. You handled that with such a deft hand. You never make your father out to be a monster. We don't. He's and you don't make yourself a victim. But you tell the story, and it's very funny. You're able to cull all the humor from your perspective of this very horrible situation and these very flawed grown-ups that you're surrounded with. And your survival mechanisms and how difficult your childhood was, but you never, like, he was a fucking asshole, this, my parents sucked. You never go there. So there's such a lack of anger and hate, and I think that is beautiful. And I've seen it 3 times, and
Something
you
like
keep
that, yeah.
you keep adding and taking away and making it just so much more beautiful. I love it. I'm just in love with that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So nice of you
and
to say.
it's such, it's almost so painful. You almost be like, okay, if I read that or saw that in a movie, but like, okay, well, that's a little staged and a little too perfect. No, that really does happen.
Yeah.
Your listeners know what.
I've talked about it on episodes before, and I've plugged the show a bunch. I'm doing it again in December. We'll see how it how it goes. Yeah, I've brought this stuff up before.
Okay.
With them, and then also any crowd that happens to
well, when I first met you, I was surprised you were so funny. Isn't that, and maybe
really?
Is that a mean thing to say?
I don't think so. If anything, it's a compliment, because I guess I can read a little. I don't talk a lot, and it takes me a while to kind of open up to people.
Right.
Once I know them, which is probably part of learned behavior. So it takes me a while to kind of open up to people, but I always am very open on stage. So I think people get to know me on stage, oddly enough.
Yeah, because you just emailed me to do the auto show, and you were very quiet, very polite, and I said, okay, and you sat there and you laughed at people. Then you went up and you fucking killed, and I was like, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? You were this meek, mild manner, hey, I heard you got a show, and you're very nice, and you came in, we and you did, I want to say a 20-minute, like, it was a flawless set. And it wasn't even like,
thanks.
I think you were working stuff out, because you were working off of notes, but you were
it was still a lot of new
killing.
stuff.
And I remember, like, saying to you, don't leave. I want to talk to you at the end, like, making you stay. I was like, no, I got to, where the hell did this come from? Like, who are you? And you were like, oh, all right, yeah. And like, you got to do the show again. You can't leave. You can't leave my life. Oh my God, like this is amazing. Very rarely do people come in and take over like that. You know who else had that quality? And I was quite shocked. And again, it was like a tornado. And I was like, you're not leaving until you talk to me, Mr. Derek Humphrey.
Oh, I think I know him. I don't know if I've met him in person.
Because he's an ex-military guy, and he looks like a nice guy, but you don't think he's going to be like that dark and that funny.
Right.
And he got on stage and like, holy fuck! And you see him on social media, and he's touring now, and you just people like that. You just hope like, oh God, I hope they become like rich and famous, or not even famous, but I hope they really are successful, because the amount of joy you guys have brought to me when everybody needs to see this. It's you just get pulled up into this vortex of what the fuck. You're not what we expected.
Well, that's what I like that.
Yeah.
Because you look to look at me, I'm a kind of a tall, kind of schlubby looking dude. You expect me to like have like serious opinions on like
right
on like, I don't know, hockey or whatever.
Right. Or be like, I smoked so much weed before I came here, and what do you guys, air hockey? And I just figured you were gonna go that route.
Yeah, just kind of
couple bro things, and some frat shit, and just banging chicks, and it's not. It's.
Well, if my life had been banging chicks up in like if my high school years were just like, oh man, just slaying so much cheerleader pussy, No, the girl, well, I didn't, and I've said this on stage before. I did a joke at my last. And my listeners also know I do a show called You Can Use That. I did
which is a brilliant. I've done the show, and I've
you were
the audience.
You were great. You were amazing on it, and thank you so much for coming to see it too.
Oh
That was very, very nice. So I
love the concept. It's a really fun show. Everybody should go see it.
Oh, it's so much fun. Everyone has such a good time whenever they do it. So someone got the topic of the Titanic, and I think it was who was it? Might have been Courtney Farrington, or no, it was Gordon Baker Bone, and he was talking about, were there black people on the Titanic? And I'm kind of a nerd for the Titanic,
right?
So I knew there was. So I looked up his name, and then I found there was an opera about him, and then I went on stage and I went on stage and I said there was a black family on the Titanic. He was French Haitian. He was an engineer. He died, but his family lived, and there was an opera written about him. And this is why I didn't have sex until I was 20. And then when I did start having sex, it wasn't with the hot popular girls. It was with the goth and punk rock girls who my people were. And so even in my show, because there's a big chunk of my show about sex, it's not like, just laying pipe or whatever. I'm like, no, I'm usually not the aggressor in this situation. Which I think it's again who I am, and it's my life, but it's also because I always thought if I'm going to talk about things that stand-up comics talk about a lot, like sex, I've got to make it so I need it to be either so true to me or different from how most people would approach it.
Right.
That it's fun for me.
Right.
Yeah. And then this is how I want to bring it back to comedy, because I want to know a little bit about how you started, what your experience in New York has been. Because a lot of times when I started doing comedy, I started doing stand-up in college in a sports bar, and not even like a unique sports bar, a chain sports bar, Damon's Bar and Grill.
Okay.
Raven in Baltimore, so they wouldn't shut the Ravens game off if the Ravens were playing, and those were some rough nights. Those were the rough nights when you were trying to go up against the Ravens.
Right.
I tried to do one right after the Super Bowl.
Oh, forget it.
Not happening.
Yeah, not happening.
So I was trying to do this kind of, and I would see there was a paid headliner, and some of these guys that would come in would be hilarious, and then there's some guys that come in and would like, it's the kind of stuff that hack road comics have told themselves and others you have to do to do well on the road in that kind of a situation. I'm like, well, if I had to do that stuff that is gonna work but I don't care about, I would just rather keep my crappy retail job.
Yeah,
because it's the same difference, right?
Right.
If
absolutely.
you're just going up and doing like some pandering shtick, that's gonna work.
Right, exactly. I was doing in the '90s. I was doing which
How long have you been doing comedy? I'm just curious.
Oh, a really long time. You know what? Because I quit for 10 years. I quit for 10 years. I quit in the. I hate the aughts. I say the 2000s.
I like 2000s better.
Yeah, aughts sounds like, what is that? The 2000s.
It sounds like it should be longer ago.
Yeah.
Like sepia toned and like.
Yes.
And
Yes.
absinthe with wormwormwood.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
long ago. So did you start in New York or did you start in like
No, New York.
Pennsylvania?
I was working at a in Pennsylvania. I was working in a head injury unit of a hospital.
Really?
Believe it or not. And I loved it, and it was a great job for me because, again, being very empathetic. And I got the job. Like, my life is so weird. I put myself through college working in a nursing home. Ironically, the same nursing home my mother died in. So it was like that whole thing. The nursing home is very significant in my life because I took a year off between high school and college, and that's when I really got involved in sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That year between high school, because remember, it was Catholic high school, so there was none of that. Like I was in the Legion of Mary. Nobody tried to be a better Catholic schoolgirl than I did, believe it or not. Like I gave Catholicism my gung ho.
Yeah.
I when I was cleaning out the apartment, I had so many Bibles. Like we would go to hospitals and nursing homes and pray the rosary with residents. And then we would meet on Saturday mornings. I'm a high schooler. Like I'm not out like nursing a hangover or having sex. No, I'm meeting with the nuns and talking about the rosary and how we can better serve the community. This is the kind of girl this was my high school years, and doing plays and cracking jokes and being silly.
Yeah.
But very religious stuff, and much more so than my siblings. Again, it was they were out popular. They were drinking beer and smoking cigarettes and getting laid. I'm going praying the rosary, Now they're all going to church, and I'm in New York marrying saints. So let's, your present and your future are very different. So, but anyway, I work in the nursing home, and now I have a degree in theater. That's basically So with two of us, we are now qualified to wait tables and to temp. So. In Pennsylvania, there's not a lot of options. I know I'm going to New York, but I want to save some money.
Yeah.
So I thought of going back to the nursing home, but it felt like going backwards. I wanted to go forward. So I thought, well, let's go to a hospital because I have a resume of that kind of work. And that summer, I got a job working at a summer camp for disabled children, or teenagers. And they mostly cerebral palsy and muscular dystrophy. And that was phenomenal because teenagers are teenagers. They love to laugh.
Yeah.
They hired me because comedy and I had nursing background. Kids loved me. So I was basically the court jester and I was the comic relief. These kids were brilliant. Several of them have passed away. Because of they've developed respiratory infections. And again, that was another foreshadowing of my future because I had a niece that was born with a form of muscular dystrophy and passed away. So isn't this weird how these were events that later showed up later in my life? So that was a phenomenal experience. I had a great summer. I kept in touch with the kids and I was like, wow, I got to use my creativity and art, and they were very brilliant and taught me about this new thing. This is the 80s, the internet. They knew about this because remember, they all have computer devices, and that's how they communicate and talk. So they are clued in.
Right.
And this is 1987, and I'm like a sponge. So that hospital then had heard about me. And we got this great girl, and we have a head injury unit, and we need somebody spunky and somebody, you know, who's pretty tough as nails. And I do. Remember the suit of armor.
Of course.
So I go in there, best year and a half like of my life. Like, it was phenomenal. The nurse manager was a musician on the side. So it was a creative guy.
Yeah.
And encouraged me and all the nurses, the staff, the doctors, to be funny, make people laugh, just go for it.
Yeah.
And I did videos for them. I did Christmas parties for them. My sister now is the head of nursing at that hospital, so everything is like interrelated.
Yeah.
She was there as a patient, ended up working there. My niece ended up like it's. She said they up until recently were still using those videos, and I said I'll go back and re-record them. You know,
Right.
not a problem. I go back and visit there every so often.
Yeah.
And they said that they never had anybody who had the passion. Like, I loved it. I love people.
Yeah.
I love helping people. That's right up my alley. And then you're telling me I can be funny on top of it? So I'm like, oh my God, you're paying me for this? This is phenomenal. I would show up, showtime, and
Right.
everybody, the families loved it. It was really remarkable, but I needed to go to New York. So,
Yeah.
and they knew I was going to New York to do stand-up. So it was time.
Yeah.
So I came here. My first year, I killed, and there was no living with me. And you want to bomb early, so you
Yeah.
don't have the ego that this gal had. And I was like, yeah, I'll just go in there and, you know, tell a few jokes, kill. I'll be on Letterman in a few days. So I went a long time with it. But then when I finally crashed and burned,
Yeah.
oh, I was heckled. And I remember it like it was yesterday. They were not having me. And then I had
Yeah.
a series of bombing because it took away my confidence.
Right. You're
And then I
going
had to
up there like,
build myself back up, and now you have to write fresh material, and
Right.
and you have to learn to work around the heckles, and you have to learn to work around rough nights and still turn that shit around.
Exactly.
So I started doing a lot of
You got to learn to give the finger to the void.
yeah, and you still got to remain likable because you can't lose the audience. So that's like the toughest part is. I hate when people post online those heckle like, oh, comedian takes over heckler, because normal people that aren't comics see that and go, oh, I should heckle so I will improve the show. You won't.
I agree.
Stop posting that. Like, people, stop it. You're not. I write jokes for a reason. Things happen, trust me, that aren't heckles that I do have to deal with. And you will see it turn into a brilliant show, and you will see me turn the car around and make it great. But don't be a douchebag.
Right.
That's not the way to. We have enough. It's enough of a gamble.
We are our own obstacle enough on stage.
Yeah, lights go out. You get the light too early. The waitress drops a tray. Shit happens on its own that I have to deal with. Again, we're living moment to moment. You could get killed at any moment. Like, I already have that anxiety and that adrenaline. You don't have to add douchebaggery into the mix.
Right.
So I was doing a lot of benefits. And at first it was challenging because you have to be clean, and like Heart Association, Cancer Society,
Right.
Children of Hope, City of Hope, everything was hopeful. B'nai B'rith, you name it. But after a while, it became rote. It became, like you said, it's pandering.
Yeah.
You realized pretty early that I could do the same jokes, and I wasn't challenging, and it wasn't being creative.
Right.
And not that I have to be dirty, but part of me is, you've seen my act, I'm a little naughty. I can be clean, but my comfort zone is a little dirtier and a little more R-rated, and maybe.
Oh yeah.
And I think my best set this year, I did at Standing Room. I did Danette's show.
Oh, yeah?
Have you ever done that?
No, I don't think I have.
And I took some old material, and I love when you're right on stage. Like, you find new, oh my God, this joke can lead into this. And I created on the spot new tags, and I also pre-wrote stuff. But my friend Dan was in the audience, and he knows my act, back and forward, left and right. And even he said, I could feel it. I was like, this is my fucking strongest set. And he's seen my stuff for years. He saw me do old stuff, new tags on old stuff, old tags on new stuff. I was playing with my existing material like I've never in my life. I took an old joke and made a brand new joke out of it. Shithead didn't record it. So I at some point have to sit Dan down and go, what the hell did I say?
Right. Yeah.
I have my set list, but I went off it. And I was just playing with the audience. And it wasn't an easy crowd because 2 people ahead of me bombed. Well, didn't bomb, but they had a challenging time. That's unfair of me. I went up there. I was feeling good. I had my comedy dress on, my Lucille Ball dress on. And I was feeling it. And I was like, I was shot out of a cannon. And when you know those nights, it's like,
oh, yes, I do.
That ride on the subway home. If I could bottle that, if I could roll that into a cigarette and smoke that when I'm feeling dread, fucking A, man.
Yeah.
That is the best subway ride. That's
the subway ride that makes up for 3 months of bombing at open mics.
Oh, absolutely. I got my mojo. I needed that.
Yeah.
But I have to remember, I prepped for that. I had like, I was doing okay this year, but I didn't feel I was doing any groundbreaking work. I wasn't being creative. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm due a killer. And when I do my own shows, I tend to make it about you guys. So I really don't do anything.
Which is what a good host.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it about me. And I'll be selfish. That show, the thing I miss about it, I got to go to a weekly show or a monthly show and put comics I knew were brilliant and do long sets.
Yeah.
And that was the takeaway for me. Like, whoa. Like, it was like I'm like, hey, emperor, perform for me, play for me, fool.
Exactly.
I will be bringing a show back because I do personally miss that.
Good.
Yeah. I'm actually going to a wedding today.
Oh, really?
One of the owners at Otto's is getting married.
Oh, nice.
I forgot. Like, last night I was like, I think I'm doing something tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God, I have a wedding. I gotta go to Nell's wedding. So that'll be awfully fun. But so that was great. I needed that, but I worked, and I gotta get the discipline back. I gotta sit down, work it out. Like,
yeah.
And your technique. Do you have a writing time? I'm curious about other comics. Do you go, okay, Saturday at 3:00, I'm going to write, or do you write as you go?
I usually write as I go. I've never scheduled a time to write. I'm usually always kind of thinking about stuff or trying to observe. And so a lot of times I'll like make little notes to myself.
Right.
But then every now and then you get that thing where you're just like, oh my God, that's great. And then got to get that immediately. I will say what I should probably do more of is take time to organize, especially like because I need to do this more with my show where I can kind of sit down and like work out beats. Because sometimes when I do my one-man show, it's a little more structured. Sometimes I'm a little more flying by the seat of my pants.
Right.
But because it's just so hard for me to sit down and designate a time to like, okay, all right, gonna write something topical, gonna write something about buses, gonna write another thing about buses that'll connect to the topical thing.
Well, you know what my latest problem is?
What's that?
I find myself writing because I want the immediate gratification.
Yeah.
So I write for Twitter or Facebook. I don't write for my act because I'll come up with something brilliant and I go, if I throw this out there, I can get 150 likes. And my statuses and my tweets I don't feel I can, unlike a lot of yours, I don't think I can do them on stage and make them bits. I've tried, and it doesn't fly. I have to like do my stand-up material, and the same goes for stand-up. My stand-up is very pure, doesn't go on social media.
Right, doesn't read well written.
No.
Because there's no inflection, there's no like wink to the audience.
Like your male menopause tweet could be... I happened to be at the doctor's, and my doctor and I are the same age. And he brought up male menopause, and I pulled my phone out and showed him your tweet. He lost it. And he goes, "Oh my God, this is brilliant." I said, "You can go see this guy. He's a comic." And that's how it came up. But I don't feel like my tweets, even the stuff that does well, translates to. And so I find myself, I want the immediate gratification. Now I can write, I can poop those out.
Yeah.
Tweets and Facebook statuses. I can sit there and go, okay, I know I need to write a joke about a rake. There's,
Yes.
there was a funny story at CNN about rakes. Rake is a funny word. Okay. And I can give myself, in a half hour, you have to come up with a great thing. And I can do it. Stand-up doesn't work that way.
No.
It's like a different animal.
Yeah,
But
it
I
is.
know how to manipulate social media to write for that. And I know what the social media audience is looking for and how to manipulate. And that's what it is. It's manipulating.
Yeah. It's just it's a different medium.
Right. Where
essentially.
stand-up is a lot more challenging because, like you said, you got facial expressions, you got voice.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you know, like, because I have bits that like are good because I can put a lot of performance into them.
Right.
And then you have your couple jokes where, and then you have jokes where it's just surgically, just a perfectly well-crafted
Exactly.
joke.
The wording is either alliteration or it's you take a beat and it's a funny word following this word, and I have to use
like
these.
if you start breaking it down like on a Seinfeld kind of level.
Yeah.
Because he's like one of my him and like David Tell, I think, are just some of the most brilliant joke writers.
Right.
Very
right.
different sides of the coin. But as far as like just, well, this word should go here and this is too many words, like thinking about it on that level, to me it's almost like if I'm going to make a comparison, like guys like maybe like a Bill Burr or a Marin that are, the bits are great,
Right.
and the writing is great, but the performance itself lends it to more of like a chaotic rock and roll kind of quality.
Right,
Like watching,
right.
like seeing the MC5 sort of like kick out the jams,
Absolutely.
whereas somebody like Seinfeld, I feel watching him would be like going to see the band Dream Theater, just like really technically precise, a lot of like and it maybe doesn't like hit me in my heart as deeply, but I'm like, I appreciate how good you are at what you do.
You know who's like that for me? Robert Klein, and he was the reason
Yeah.
I went into stand-up. I remember
Robert Klein?
in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. I'm now like the class clown in high school.
Yes.
So that's established. So now I'm at the public library and I'm getting comedy albums, and I have Robert Klein's, which I list this album, Mind Over Matter, is over 40 years old, and it is funny today. I have it. I have all of Robert Klein's works. I have all his HBO specials. As funny today as when I first heard it when I was 15 years old. It again, so well structured, those jokes.
Yeah.
The Watergate jokes, it's not even relevant. It's still fucking funny.
Right.
Just brilliant. And the other comics that I feel are just like I listen to when I really just need inspiration. Kathleen Madigan is a brilliant joke writer.
Oh yeah, she's great.
Oh my God, her stuff on W is just like, and again, it's dated, but it holds. You go back and listen to that, and even now, like I follow her on Twitter. It's just a phenomenal comic, and there's a comic who I just think is incredibly brilliant, Monique Marvez. She's a woman out of Florida. She works. She doesn't. I don't really think she comes to New York at all. She's based in Florida. She's Latina. She does LA a lot. She does lots of stuff down south.
Right.
She is filthy, balls to the wall. Goddamn brilliant writer. Goddamn brilliant writer. You listen to her, you're like, wow. She knows herself. She knows her audience.
Yeah.
And just what skill, the skill level. I've already was listening to it, and I had my door open. My neighbor was like, okay, whatever I just heard was hysterical. I'm like, this is comic, Monique Marvez. She's brilliant. I follow her on social media, and not many people know of her. But I I've looked at their joke structures, those three, and that's who I aspire to.
Yeah.
And I feel my best jokes kind of follow that Robert Klein. There's a specific rhythm and a feeling.
Yeah.
And he's just got it
It's
all.
like a swing.
Yeah. And it doesn't, it's never not funny. Like,
Yeah.
Like there's stand-up tapes in this coffee table that are in the 90s that are on VHS. That if I had a VHS machine, they were called VHS machines?
VCR.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. That's an okay mistake to make. That's normal. Right?
Yeah, it's totally normal.
You put that on the teletype there, mister. And
yeah. I mean, when was the last time we've had to know what a VCR is?
We've had to know what that was. I would bet the material's not good. The performance probably is very good because I was always a performer, very physical, rubber face. So you'd probably still laugh because it's a funny lady.
Yeah.
But I don't think the material stood the test of time. I know a handful of jokes from memory. I got rid of those old comedy notebooks. But I don't think that they stood the test of time. But yeah, I got to a point where I had a lot of deaths in the family, and I was dealing with the autoimmune disease and the craziness, and I thought I was going mad, and I thought I was going to be in an institution. So I thought I needed to stop doing stand-up, and I need to put myself in a mental home, put myself in Creedmoor. But it turned out that I had a real thing that was causing the insomnia and the fear and the anxiety and the tremendous weight loss. And it had a name, and there was medication, and there's doctors. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I spent the next 4 years getting better, and then I spent the other bunch of years going, well, I'm working a corporate job. I'm making money. And, it was like being a grown up. But I was lucky in all the corporate environments I worked at. Everybody knew I was a freak. Yeah. And they let me be the lunatic I was. And I was so grateful for that because people were like, oh my God, you used to do stand up, right? So can you just be they let me just be an absolute lunatic, do stand up at company events and just send not inappropriate memos, but on the edge. People let me she's going to probably get this information across in an I would send reminders, but I would do it in a play format. Act one, and I would be the one character, and you, the recipient of the email, would be the other. And I would write these long, and I was working crazy hours. And my boss not only let me, but gave me raises and because there was a creative use of. And people accepted that, so I was very lucky. But then when I got laid off is when I had nothing to do, and I thought, all right, when I had time on my hands, worked at the Fringe Festival, got a job at the Apple Store, and Christina Hutchinson, I worked with her at the Apple Store, and everybody's a stand-up and a musician and a writer and an actor
at the Apple Store.
Yeah, and I got hired because I was funny, not for my computer knowledge, although I did learn a lot. Because they train you and you get to play with all the devices. And that's when I was writing like a lunatic because you're in retail. And I went back hardcore. And that's that. So here we are. Excellent. So, but I'm glad I took that. Well, I needed to because I was losing my mind.
Because you don't want to, because then you don't want to be like, I probably can't, I don't know if I could say this, but somebody that I used to see at an open mic pretty regularly,
right?
Was arrested recently, and so you don't want to have to be trying to process your own thing because certain things get to a point where you can't even deal with them on stage.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to I would imagine because I would imagine if you didn't have that break, that maybe that could have probably caused more harm than good. But then also you have people that are. Again, they know you and they're letting you be you.
But you're. Oh yeah, I was a lunatic. People that I destroyed real relationships, with my family, with friends. I was screaming because I don't know what's real.
Right.
And I'm going through grief, and I'm eating 15 pizzas and losing 20 pounds and. I can't sleep and I'm running on adrenaline and no one knows what's going on, I physically was incapable of any kind of creative thought, much
Yeah.
less telling a joke. I would have used that time to be mean. It was interesting because I'm not a mean person, and knowing I was capable of being a not nice person.
Yeah. So
That
it got to be an unsettling realization.
But I think the anger was because what's going on, and I later would well, I wouldn't say later. I did see that working with head injury and injured patients, and working with patients with dementia, when they're angry and they fight and it's because they're confused. Think of
Yeah.
it. If you don't know, all of a sudden you see an object in front of you. You don't know it's a water bottle. You like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, or something, you wake up. I didn't mean to yell.
Oh, no,
right?
it's okay.
If something that is familiar is no longer familiar, your first reaction is going to be one of anxiety. And if
Yeah.
somebody is saying to you, listen, Will, calm down, you are going to be angry at
Be
that
like,
person.
I can't.
That's why patients act out. It's what is happening to my brain.
Yeah.
So patients that have head injuries, whether it is from disease or it is from a physical, an actual car accident, or they were beaten up.
Yeah.
That anger is, well, also synapses, things aren't connecting.
Right. It messes with your brain, because that happened to Spalding
Yes.
Gray after his car accident.
Correct.
It completely changed his personality.
Absolutely. And knowing that from working in head injury and the concussions, the football players who
Yeah.
end up committing suicide or subsequently have substance abuse issues because they're self-medicating,
Yeah.
it fucks you up beyond belief. So you're going to go angry. You're going to, you don't want to have access to weapons, or even if not weapons, a microphone. So, but I was so far removed from, like I said, anything creative, and I associate performing and microphones with creativity. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't even have occurred to me to get on a mic and just chew people out. I was just doing enough damage, self-harming, and just ruining. I alienated myself, but not realizing it because, I had this disease. So, but yeah, I took that 10 years, got all better. Now I'm managing it, as they say. And I'm fine. And now I make jokes about it. So,
And that's the ultimate victory over anything. And this might be a great way to wrap this up, because this has been an amazing conversation.
has it?
I've been loving this. Something, just saying that, the fact that you can make jokes, if you can mock it, then you can manage it. That's something Patton Oswalt said
Yes.
about his wife's death.
Yeah.
Or the grief he's going through. He's going through. So yeah, because there was and just the way I'll relate to this, when I was doing comedy, first started doing comedy, I was very monotone. You couldn't tell who I was on stage, and I was doing these kind of absurdist one-liners. I couldn't talk about my personal life.
Right.
Couldn't talk about my family. Couldn't talk about
Right.
any of that stuff. So if it eventually but now that I can talk about it and get laughs from it,
Right.
it doesn't have as much power over me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And talking about the people that are mean to me, and make my life hell, takes away their power. And
Yeah.
and also it gives you confidence in real life that, like, I'm pretty tough cookie now. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at everything as material. So if you fuck with me, trust me, And it's funny because I was mentoring a young comic. She was in high school.
Yeah.
And I took her to a couple open mics and some brutal ones.
Yeah.
And the first thing I said to her was, you're going to see some really bad shit. Do not feel sorry for me. I'm okay. You're going to see people, comics, heckle me, be mean. You're going to see talking back. These open mics are horrible, horrible places. Necessary evil. I don't
Yeah.
do them anymore right now. I'd rather just do bar shows, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't find them beneficial, but I took her. It was part of the learning curve. She was, oh my God, why did they do that to you? I'm like, they're comics and it's a mic. And I took her purposely to a bad one where you know
Oh yeah, talking, shouting.
And they're gonna be like, not funny, asshole. Oh yeah. And then the comic behind me used a lot of her time to tell me what a horrible human being I was and why my jokes sucked. And like, it was like, good use of that Metro card, lady. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, not a friendly, happy place, but you got to learn to roll with it, and also in real life. And it's almost like I got a profound thing happen to me. It was a couple of years ago where I was going through a lot of pain, and I thought, you can't hurt me anymore. Yeah. Like, you get to a point where I've been to the precipice of pain, and I bet you Patton Oswalt would say that after his wife's died, you can't get more painful.
No.
You can't hurt me anymore. Bring it. You think telling me I'm ugly? You think telling me I'm a loser? You think calling me, like, I've got that my entire life. Dude, like, tell me something new. Like, this has gone back from, like, when I was single digits. Like, come on.
Oh yeah, that revenge fantasy. Yeah, that idea of like someone coming at you and be like, "You're giving me." It's almost like, it's like in 8 Mile when he's in the final rap battle.
I love Eminem.
And he says, "I know everything you're gonna say. You're gonna say this, 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 this. You're gonna say this about my friend. You're gonna say this about my other friend. And then here's everything that you've been trying to hide about yourself. I know it. This is what your real name is. This is what your real name is. And I've just he makes it impossible for him to respond, and it makes it impossible for him to be hurt.
Right.
It's a really powerful message.
It really is. And I love him for so many reasons. He also had an Ambien problem.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So, and I just find that his story very powerful. I just saw Compton. Straight Outta Compton.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to.
I have it right there. I will lend it to you. Dude, it is phenomenal. Yeah, it's just and again the importance that these guys had in music, and how their beginnings were. Because I remember, I was a grown up, and I remember, NWA, and but Eminem's story, very, very powerful, and you're absolutely right. And don't you find also that comedy, we have the power, we can read a room.
Yes.
I do that. Like when I'm being a grown-up in real life. A lot of people, we have a tremendous amount of self-awareness. I can tell when you don't like me, and even if I don't know why, and I know to sit down, shut up, just listen. I could tell if you want to talk more. Any situation I go into, I act like a comic, I read the room, I behave appropriately. And you're never going to misstep. And I could tell the assholes, and I could tell the reason why you're being mean to me is because you are intimidated by me.
Yeah.
And at this age now, I have a tremendous amount of confidence. I'm not arrogant, I'm confident. And people will have a problem with that, because people want you to be like, oh, well, I'm middle-aged, and I don't know. Fuck that. Like, I'm having a great life. In case you haven't seen me lately, I'm kind of a pretty happy gal. Like, things are going pretty well for me. So, but I'm supposed to be the schlubby person that you remember from when I was 16 or 8 even. And it's like, sorry, that payoff didn't work for you.
Yeah. And that's I think that's why I find you so inspiring, and I dig your vibe of accomplishment of flipping off the void.
Yeah.
To say.
Yeah.
And I really dig that about you. And
thank you.
I'm glad that you sat down and talked to me.
This was super fun. Let's do it every week.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Maribeth.
And we can plug your show. You plug your show, or?
Oh yes. And anything of yours we need to promote?
You know what? No, because I'm on a hiatus right now.
Well, you can just message me, and then on another episode I can say,
there you
my
go.
friend Maribeth, you should check out this thing.
Absolutely. You can follow me on social media. Maribeth Mooney is Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff.
Excellent. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you for talking to me.
like you needed a relief after the week you've been having. But that's what that conversation was for me. And it's great to get to know Maribeth a little bit better, kind of hear about her life, hear about her outlook on things. It's really groovy. And she's someone who I like, but I didn't know we had so much in common. And I am learning more and more the value of a long conversation with someone in person. And I hope that I get a lot out of doing these podcasts, and I hope if you listen that it helps you. So thank you for being here. You can, of course, subscribe and leave a rating for Between Awesome and Disaster on iTunes. And you can get tickets for my next performance of my one-man show, Laughing Through the Sad, December 9th at Standard Toycraft as part of the Tank Solo Week Festival. And I will have the link in the description, and I hope to see you guys there. And be kind to each other, and I'll see you next week Between Awesome and Disaster.